The wholesaling process is a gray area you are operating in between what you are representing to your sellers and your buyers. Most wholesalers represent themselves as buyers. They meet sellers at their houses and begin what could be described as a highly manipulative and invasive sales process. They have the ARV calculated beforehand. You can do this on Zillow. Just search the nearest properties within a mile without crossing freeways, waterways, or other major land features that are within 10% of square footage, plus or minus 10 years of when the subject house was built, same or as close to beds and baths. Be wary of number of stories, pools, and other features. You may have to include them in your comps. The wholesaler will then select and bring with them the 3 lowest comps to show the seller. The wholesaler will also have a repair sheet. The repair sheet is a list of general and standard items and costs that any rehabber would have to look at and calculate when looking at a property to fix and flip. The trick is that the wholesaler's repair sheet has prices on it that would be appropriate if they were rehabbing the Ritz-Carlton. These prices are heavily inflated as part of the way to build and profit for the wholesaler. At the appointment, the wholesaler will introduce himself and invite the seller to show them around so he can calculate any repairs that may be needed. This is called the tour. The trick here is to get the seller to talk. Ask them anything. Talk about the weather, their dog, the Yankees, whatever it takes to get them to warm up to you. And keep them talking. Ask them why they decided to sell such a great house. Why would they ever leave this neighborhood? Where are they planning on going? Is everyone on board with that? How soon does all this need to happen? Most wholesalers aren't even looking at their repair sheet while this is going on. Just checking the boxes for full kitchen remodel, full bathroom remodels, replace flooring, paint entire interior exterior, new roof, replace every door, all hardware, every square inch of crown molding, landscape front and back, or anything else that sticks out like a sore thumb. Because in general most wholesalers wouldn't recognize a load-bearing wall from a hole in their head. The goal is to rack up as many repair costs as possible so they can drive the offer price down. Every house a wholesaler visits magically needs full bath and kitchen remodels, new flooring, paint and everything else listed above. The real point when doing the tour with the seller is to pump them for as much information as you can get so you can use it against them while negotiating. Most sellers aren't very sophisticated or savvy to the sales process. Once the tour is over, the wholesaler will need a few minutes to run some numbers and calculate his offer. He'll then ask if there's a place they can sit and talk. This is where the real Jedi mind tricks begin. A good wholesaler will never give an offer unless the seller is ready to sign. Instead, he'll start in on more invasive questions and use any information they garnered during the tour. So, Mr. Seller, you said you inherited this house and it's been a real burden. What's been such a burden about it? When you said it's too much to take care of, what did you mean by that? What will happen if that foreclosure goes through? So you need to sell in 30 days, where will you go? The aim is to get to the root of the seller's pain. Get them to feel the pain of why they need to sell. Make it real in the moment so they are more accepting of the low cash price and ready to sign the contract right now. Many times the seller will be glad to share all of this information. Matter of fact, I've had more than my fair share of group therapy sessions with sellers who bare their souls to me because it feels good for them to talk to someone who appears to be showing some interest. After they've trudged through this person's personal tragedies, the wholesaler will then turn to the repair sheet and show the immense cost of rehabbing the house. Next, he'll burst out the 3 lowest comps he found. Based on those comps, minus repair costs, minus 10% of ARV for realtors' fees, closing costs, holding fees, etc., the wholesaler will be ready to present his offer. But before he does this, he'll ask the most important question. Are you ready to make a decision today? If yes, he will bestow his offer upon them. If no, then he'll start to go back over all of the reasons the seller gave him for why he wanted to sell the house. He'll try and get back at that pain or dig out what the seller isn't telling him. Missing decision maker? Not mentally prepared. Not as much urgency as presented? If the seller is cooperative, they can get to a yes and negotiate price. If it's still a no or a I'll have to think it over, or talk to my husband, wife, aunt, mailman, cat, etc., A good wholesaler will end the sales call and not give an offer. Sellers get really upset when a wholesaler won't give them a number. But a good wholesaler knows it's his only leverage. Once he gives it up, he has nothing else. If a seller isn't ready to sign, they'll shop the offer to every other wholesaler that sent them a yellow letter. In general, most wholesaling operations run this way. They represent themselves as rehabbers. Or they represent themselves as cash buyers of properties to be held in their portfolios. What they don't advertise is that they are selling the house they just tied up for pennies on the dollar, in the same exact condition they bought it in for a $10,000 to $100,000 markup. They're middlemen. Most sellers aren't receptive to finding out you're cashing in on their misfortune and ignorance. After all, how would you like it if you were about to lose your house, had to sell it for half price only to find out Mr. Wholesaler is going to make a 5-figure profit and not put any skin in the game? He had you sign a sales contract. But he has no intention of buying it. He's tying up your house so you can't sell it to anyone else and then going to sell that contract to a third party for a markup. The ideal outcome is that everyone walks away happy. Your seller is aware that you are buying his house for cash, which will solve a lot of his problems, and doesn't really care what you do with it. Your buyer is happy because he has a discount property to take over and rehab for a profit. He's not concerned with your commission because you've left enough profit in the property for him to make a tidy sum. You are happy because you were able to find a seller with a need, negotiate a fair deal, find a rehabber a great property, and all the while you were able to pocket a nice commission for your effort. Transparency is vital. Do I think you need to walk in the seller's front door and announce that you're going to tie his property up and sell it at a profit? No. What I do believe was making the seller aware of what it is that you do, may do, and cannot do. Do not lie. Sellers are becoming more educated on the wholesaling process. Many times they'll be fully aware of exactly what you're up to and will play dumb just to see if you're going to lie about it. I've had many sellers ask me what I'm going to do with their property. I'd always tell them, well, we do a little of everything. Which was true. We may rehab it and sell it or keep it as a rental. Also true. Or if it doesn't fit one of those criteria, we may pass it off to one of our partners to take over. A nice way of saying we'll wholesale it. This would usually make them comfortable with me and aware of what I was attempting to do with their home. Or they'd get all indignant that I might wholesale their property. If they did, that was okay. It meant they were being unrealistic anyway, and I shouldn't waste any more time dealing with them. If you are strictly wholesaling and have no intention of putting any of your own money in, be upfront about it. A good way to say this is you represent and partner with homebuyers and rehabbers. Your goal is to find properties they can hold in their portfolios or take on as rehabs. That should give your seller sufficient awareness of what you're planning on doing with their property. What you shouldn't do is represent that you are buying the house with your own money, are a rehabber, or anything else that you can't do. Should you negotiate the highest commission that you can? Yes. Should you lie, mislead, scare, and pressure your seller into signing your contract? No. My advice is to be reasonable and upfront with your sellers. You'll be surprised at how far that will take you and how well you'll sleep at night.